How you doing,
All right,
Tom?
all right. I'm doing well, Britt. How are you doing today?
Good. Where are you located right now?
Actually, right now I am in. I'm down at the South Jersey beach in Stone Harbor, New Jersey.
Oh
We have
wow.
a beach house down here. We still live outside of Philadelphia, but my family and I we have a house at the beach down here. It's not Sausalito or Newport Beach like what you fancy folks have out in California, but we do what we can with what we have here.
Oh, dude, I grew up in Colts Neck, New Jersey. My family has a
Oh,
house in
really?
in Tom's River, and I think that Seaside Heights, New Jersey as good as the Sunset Strip and still is. I mean, it was as
Yeah,
rock and roll as it gets. The Jersey Shore is so special, man.
no doubt about it. Springsteen and the what was it was it the Stone Pony up there back in the day?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a good rock and roll scene down here for sure.
I remember one of my best friends, Jamie, was in the Bon Jovi film, the In and Out of Love video. Do you remember Seaside Heights? They had that stage there,
Yep, yep.
and he got to be one of the kids chasing Bon Jovi down the boardwalk. It's pretty cool looking back at how cool that was that they did that 24 hours, boys, and they did the whole day on this and night on the Seaside boardwalk.
That's wild. Yeah, so I'm decent chunk south of there. I'm exit, as we do in Jersey. I'm exit 10 off the Parkway,
Oh, okay.
and so that's a bit further north
Yeah,
than
yeah,
where we are.
yeah.
So
So
all good though.
we grew up in about the same time. I graduated in '88, so I'm sure we're in the same vicinity.
I might be a little older. Let's leave it there. But yeah, I might
Okay.
be a few more gray hairs. Let's put it that way.
But what we grew up in such a special time, don't you think? Don't you remember MTV coming into our lives and everything? Just how cool that was.
Absolutely. I mean, you think about especially the early '80s and all through the '80s. I think it was,
Yeah,
from the time that it kicked off, and then we were talking about that. I was with some friends last weekend, just about how you just kind of turn it on and you'd sit there and watch it, hours on end, honestly,
yeah,
and I think it might have been a drag for, especially in the beginning, for some of the bands, to make the videos to follow up on, the songs that were released and, to kind of promote those. And, but then I also believe that, probably more in the mid to late '80s, like many other mediums, that kind of will be advantageous to the small groups that have no following. MTV probably made some of those bands.
oh yeah. And I read a book on MTV when they first came out. They couldn't fill the 24 hours. So if you had any form of video made of your band, I mean, like you were pretty
Yeah,
set for that those first few years that they needed to fill that space. There were so many crazy videos that wouldn't have made it if they didn't have to fill that space. And certain bands had, like the Police, had just filmed videos. I mean, obviously the Police
right.
are one of the better bands, but Van Halen had that live footage from Oakland Arena, and they were just filling the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I remember some of those grainy, fuzzy videos early on, right?
Yeah,
That was it's just somebody's footage from a live concert somewhere along the lines. So, yeah,
yeah.
fun times though, for sure.
I remember walking into a music store in California. I moved out here in '88 and seeing the guy from Crowded House and being so angry at him but it was so stupid how I felt because all he represented was all the time. He represented the videos that I had to wait through to get to the Maiden and Van Halen videos. He just reminded me
Yeah,
of waiting because you just wait because Maiden and Van Halen were mainstream, but you did have Crowded House, the Police, some things in
yep,
between.
no doubt about it.
And
No
we
doubt
gave
about it.
some things a pass, like Loverboy got a pass, I think, because they had rock guitars, and they were all right. We'll give this a pass.
Yeah, and then some other ones. I guess Duran Duran with some kind of cool videos as well,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Asia, and
Oh,
yeah,
Asia were so mean. They had such good artwork
it was
too.
it was awesome, and they
Yeah.
had a good sound
Oh, yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
So
What was
very
your
cool.
What was your favorite bands What were your favorite metal bands growing up?
Um, again, I think certainly Van Halen. Um, you know, I was on the U2 again, not a metal band, but you know, I was on the U2 wagon
Yeah.
fairly early, and again, and I think again that was probably because of MTV, right? They were early on.
They had that
Um,
unforgettable fire. Remember, they were in the mountains.
uh,
That video was just, it kind of felt like metal, I think, because of the flames and the mountains. You know what I mean?
yeah, absolutely. And then where were they on top of the? Was that on the strip where they were on top of the
Downtown LA, where the
building?
streets have no
Yeah,
name.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
That
yeah,
was very cool too.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so you know, certainly, and then you know, I was still more into the Who,
Right.
you know, some Zeppelin, you know, the Stones, you know, before Some Girls. Honestly,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
kind of thought Some Girls changed and they got a little too much pop there, but um, you know, those were still some of the old, you know, Foghat
Oh yeah.
was, you know, still
So mean. Yeah.
Foghat still gets me rolling, right?
Oh, I just saw them open for Deep Purple last year, and they just crushed. I don't know who's left in the band, but they crushed. It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, Deep Purple Made in Japan was one of my first albums, you know.
I think it's
What
the
was there
sound of
like a,
heavy metal. I mean, just Ian
yeah,
Gillan's voice is just so, oh, I even love the Sabbath album he did. Yeah.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
so
We were
mean.
actually we were watching Dazed and Confused last night, and you know, in the one scene they're rolling up in a pickup truck and Space Trucking's on, right? If I'm not mistaken, I think Space Trucking took up one side of that whole, you
Oh, you're
know,
right. You're
album
right. You're right.
on that double album. That double album set had like, you know, a handful of songs on both albums. You
So
know,
mean. Ace
it
Frehley
was
just
awesome.
Ace Frehley just covered Space Trucking and put some of his Ace Frehley words in it. It just came out. It's pretty.
Oh, really?
It's a pretty cool version.
Cool. I haven't seen or heard that.
So so when how do you find out? I mean, this story is incredible, and there's just so much. I mean, this music. The reason we had to talk to the music because, like you and Tom, I have a lot of friends that I'm still bonded with as a grown man through this music and arguing over this music, which Priest album was the best. I mean, how do you find out you're going?
Kurt calls me up, you know, because you know, the whole thing with Martha Quinn pulling the postcard out that
Yeah.
Sunday night was, you know, was kind of staged. We knew a couple of weeks before, I
Oh,
believe,
okay.
and so Kurt had called me, and you know, he's telling me that, you know, about sending in the postcards, and I don't think that we had talked about that beforehand, but he's like, yeah. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. And he's like, yeah. And they picked out my postcard and I won, dude. And I'm like, wow, that is really cool. And I think he was like, you know what is even better? He's like, I want you to come with me.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I still remember being in my kitchen in my house and you know, on the wall phone and him telling me that. And I was like, oh my God. He's like, would you do it? I was like, are you kidding me? You know, uh, it was so cool,
We
you
have to
know?
give him hero status for not, and he had a girlfriend at the time. I think he gets hero status for, I mean, that's foresight. I mean, now as grown men, you know, but what foresight?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And it literally could have gone the other way. I mean, she wasn't, you know, certainly controlling or anything like that, but I could hear her ask him, well, you know, of course which is, by the way, the funniest part of that doc was it was Kurt just being like, yeah, no, you're
Like
not
it
going.
wasn't even. Yeah, I mean, oh my God, I feel like they should show that in schools. You know, my nephew needs. You know, I mean, they like when you're younger and you see a kid make a decision or two
Yeah,
people in a relationship so young, thinking this is going to, you know, chances are it won't be going 20, 30 years. You know, the odds are, oh man, and friendships last, you know.
absolutely.
I always say
Absolutely. And
friendships last because friends never tell you you didn't treat me this way when you wanted to be my friend.
right.
There's a reason
Exactly right.
friendships last. You know what I mean? Oh my
No doubt
God.
about it. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
so it was, you know, and looking back on it, you know, you're right. It could have gone either way, but you know, it was, and just our story, you know, personally, Kurt and I, you know, had been again friends from birth.
Wow.
And you know, our fathers, it's funny because our fathers were friends as well. Our fathers went into the Marine Corps, literally it was like that buddy system when they went in, in the late 50s, and they both went in at the same time. And my father gets like a medical discharge. Something was banged up with his hand, and he got a medical discharge like a couple of weeks later, leaving Mr. Jeffries in the U.S. Marines. And he's like, what kind of buddy did I pick to come in the Marines with? The dude's gone in a couple of weeks, and here I am in Paris Island.
Oh my
busting my
God.
ass,
Oh my
you know?
God. Wow.
So yeah, even unfortunately, my father passed back in 2001. But Kurt's parents are doing great, and we're still close, and it's great to see them. They're two of my favorite people ever, and it's really cool.
I mean, he's the one that hooked this up. I mean,
Oh yeah,
yeah, I get. I mean, it just there's something about the music, man. I have so many friends that are just tied in from high school of just arguing whether "Peace of Mind" by Iron Maiden was better than "Number of the Beast," and the experiences you have. I mean, and
yep.
for did you and Kurt go to concerts together before this? After this, were you concert buddies or?
Yeah, I mean, not really a whole lot. I mean, even though I love the music and all kinds of music, and still do today,
Yeah.
I like to think that I've got a fairly eclectic playlist today that does everything from Edgar Winter to Van Halen to AC/DC on it to Aretha Franklin, and it spans all kinds of genres,
Yeah.
and I wasn't a real concert goer. I was, growing up in a bit of a stricter house, I would say,
I
in
get
terms
it.
of being able to
Yeah.
go and do things like that. Which kind of sucked at the time, but looking back on it, whether it was
Oh, it
it's
makes sense.
probably right. I wasn't the most responsible kid. Let's just put it that way. And so there was a bit of a track record there where I could see, being a parent
Yeah.
today of three boys, as a matter of fact, I could see where my mom would be like, I don't think that's such a great idea.
Yeah.
So believe it or not, and this will kind of put an exclamation point on that. My first concert was in Cobo Hall on the Lost
my
Weekend.
God. Wow. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah. What'd you think?
So I go to my first concert, right? And the first thing I do, the whole thing is I mean, we can get the Valerie Bertinelli being there, and just what a crazy, unbelievable thing that was for a 19-year-old.
Oh yeah, the one day at a time.
Yeah. I was 19 years old, when we went on that trip. And just to see her, literally one of the most beautiful people I've ever seen, before or after in my life. So, and
my mom has the cooking book on the counter. I mean, I look at the cooking books on my mom's counter right now. It's like a saint. What I mean?
It's crazy. And, I didn't know any of them before or after, but I wanted so much to reach out to Valerie, a couple of weeks ago and just say, I'm so sorry when Eddie passed, and that was a sad day.
It was,
and I felt like maybe I didn't deserve to be as sad as I was, because I spent a weekend with them, but I was genuinely sad that day. I think it was a combination of, obviously, what a great guy he was, how great he was to Kurt and I, on that weekend, and both of them, how great they were to us. But also, I didn't realize, I knew that he was sick and had been battling for years, but I didn't know that he had gone south, health-wise, in the few weeks, obviously, before he passed. But I really felt bad for her, and just the heartfelt emotion
that post she
that
put
I saw
was
from
heavy.
her and Wolf. Yeah, absolutely. And the pic of them, and anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of tough, but yeah, I mean, going there, getting to Cobo Hall that afternoon to check out, to go to the sound check, was the first.
You don't even know what a sound check is, right? I mean, what what is it? Now we know what it's.
Yeah. And that was the first thing. So we're wandering around, this empty, huge Cobo Hall. I think it held 18 or 19,000 at the time. It was just really, it was us and the band, and some of the folks putting the sound on and all that stuff, but that was it. And so that was my first experience live with a rock and roll group.
Oh my God. Do you remember the first moment that you walked in and saw? Because to me, it's probably was like Spider-Man coming to life, or so, like superheroes. They were superheroes. Do you when you first saw them and they were people, like breathing people? When you walk in and you see any of them, like they jump off the TV screen and there they are breathing in front of you. It had to be
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. So I'm like, and this will also maybe put it in a little bit of perspective. So I'm like 6'3". So when I first meet Eddie and David and Michael Anthony and Alex is probably the tallest of the four of them. I was really kind of taken aback by, I figured they'd all be like bigger than me, right? You
Yeah.
see them on TV, and I think when you're a kid or whatever, you kind of think of everybody kind of bigger than you or whatever. But I was, that was the first thing, and again, you know, going back to Valerie, the first person that we saw recognizable when we walked into
Oh,
the place was her. Was
come
her.
on. Yeah. I mean, come on. As a
So
kid watching that show,
I
she
was
just
like,
like, oh, made you like,
yeah,
wow.
it's like,
Yeah.
and I was like, well, it's all going to be downhill from here.
Yeah. Oh
It
my
was,
gosh.
and she actually, she couldn't have been any, like I said, all of them couldn't have treated us any better, but her, the first thing she asked is, after she met us was, what can I get you guys to drink?
Oh my gosh.
And so she mixed us drinks, and we went off from there. But the impact of seeing, then, obviously her first, and but then seeing Eddie and Michael Anthony, and Alex, which was, chronologically the first folks that we saw. David was, and I think I even talked about this in the doc, was, behind closed doors and
Okay.
was not ready for prime time. And
Right.
there was even, and again, I don't know how much was for us or how much was, but there was a nurse dressed in a nurse uniform that was going in and, I don't know, administering IV or whatever. I mean, and not like the pretty young 23-year-old nurse.
Oh, like a
This
nurse
lady
nurse.
was like a nurse,
Not
like
that nurses
probably,
aren't pretty, but just yeah, you
no,
just
no, no,
just
right, right. No,
like
yeah, this was a real nurse, and yeah, there's many beautiful nurses, of
yeah.
course, but this was more of Aunt B from Mayberry
Yes,
RP
exactly.
type
Yes.
nurse.
That well put.
Okay,
Yeah.
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 So
Oh my
so we
gosh.
didn't. So David didn't emerge. We really didn't interact much with David. I don't think until after the concert the first night, and then
Okay.
interact we did. You know,
Yeah.
but I remember, just hanging out backstage with those guys before the concert, and just chatting with all of them. And Eddie and Valerie were in Eddie's dressing room, and we hung out with them. And the thing that really is terrible, Brit, is we had like a stack of photographs that big, and over the years, we lent them to people, or people asked us for it, and we never got them back.
Oh man.
So yeah, it's actually heartbreaking now that I think about it, because there were so many pics of, like us and Eddie and Valerie, or us and Michael and Alex, and there's some pics still around, obviously, with that people have been kind enough to forward to us. But if anybody out there
Yeah.
that was involved in that weekend still has any of that film, we'd love to get the pics again, please. But
Oh,
so there's a lot of those moments that we don't have captured on film at this point anymore. But just hanging out with them, and I remember talking to Alex, and he wasn't drinking, and I asked him about it, and he's like, he's got the drumsticks out on the end table, and he's got the M&Ms, and he's
the
doing a
famous
drum roll and
M&Ms, no
pop.
green
Yeah,
M&Ms.
no brown M&Ms,
Rem. Okay.
which was, he's doing drum rolls and then picking off the M&Ms, and it was just really kind of cool. And and I asked him, okay, so no drinks for you? And he's like, I did that once upon a time, and I was really, pretty jacked up on stage, and he's like, I was screwing up left and right. He's like, I'll never do it again.
Oh my gosh.
Which was kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah.
During the concert, at least the front guys anyway, I don't know, but during the concert for sure, the Jack Daniels was flowing and was real.
Okay.
I think Kurt can attest to that.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, when he got on stage and they couldn't get him off. But it was there
was lots of rumors of that Jack Daniels was filled with iced tea. I actually I don't drink, so on my show I have a Jack Daniels bottle I fill with iced tea in tribute to Van Halen, but it was real, you say.
That Jack Daniels that night on that stage was real.
Wow.
There's no doubt about it. And so and then all the drinks beforehand and afterwards, and nobody's, like I said, none of the band guys were really getting after it before the concert, rightfully so. But I think during and certainly after, it was kind of amped up quite a bit.
I was reading about the M&Ms. You probably know, the Malcolm Gladwell books. Do you know those?
Yeah. Outliers.
Yeah, it was one of those type books. I think it might have been one of his. He actually said the Silicon Valley studies that M&Ms clause, because why Dave did that, because he really was a genius, was because the electricity Van Halen needed. They needed more electricity than the Who. The Who was the last band to tour arenas that really pulled, and he wanted to make sure no one got hurt, and that they were reading the electrical contracts, so that when they would come and they would get a contract, if they saw the M&Ms, they knew they didn't pay attention to the rider.
Exactly right.
Like, just next level, man. Like,
guys
in his 20s thinking of that. You know what I mean? That's pretty huge, man. David Lee Roth, just so cool.
Yeah, those guys, I had read that as well. And again, like I said, and there was more nefarious, interpretations of all that stuff. And it's people got too much time on their hands.
I mean, Dave's been an EMT. He's been there. After this interview I'm going to play, he paints these cartoons. He became a cartoon watercolor painter during COVID, and he wrote a song called Somewhere Over the Rainbow Bar and Grill, which that sign is from the Rainbow Bar and Grill. And I'll play it after. You have to look for Ed. It's a really cool song, but
that's very cool.
Yeah. They just represented so much. What were you going to say?
Yeah. I mean, he probably doesn't get the, the kudos, I don't think, but you could tell, I mean, the dude's an artist.
Yes.
Everything, and maybe he does get the credit he deserves.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
So that doesn't surprise me that he's doing this stuff now.
Yeah.
And, it is kind of cool, doing the EMT stuff. And, and again, like I said, I mean, those guys couldn't have been any better to us the whole time that we were there. And, today, who's the band that is, first of all, them and that big at that time to have, us idiots running around backstage with them.
But they had it in the same sense. Who wouldn't? They just represented.
Yeah, right.
They just represented joy, man. Before I want to get back, we'll end with what they represented, but it just incredible. I lost my train of thought just thinking of the joy that they brought, man. It was just such a good thing.
No, absolutely. And while we were there, the whole thing, and and I think the doc did a pretty good job of talking about some of the weekend, but being there for 2 nights, the first night we watched the concert from the sound stage. So we're middle of the stage, whatever, 25 rows back, and that's where we're watching the concert. And then I guess it was the next night that we watched the concert from the pit, which was really cool. And the first night was when they brought Kurt up on stage and the cake and all that stuff. And again, that whole thing with the way, you know, they treated him, and the little guys in the karate outfits, just, you know, those guys just literally, I mean, I think all that they were doing were carrying some Jack Daniels around and rolling joints backstage was the only, I mean, of course there's security, right? Because they're in the karate outfits that say
Right.
security on the back. And why wouldn't you have, you know, the little people be the security for the, you know, worldwide most popular band, right?
But yeah, exactly. But I think what I think is like sometimes in a situation in life, you might do one little thing. It'd be like decorating a room. One little thing might seem crazy. Like you go for this one little statue in the corner of the room. But as you add so many things up, then you walk in that room and go, oh my God, this is an amazing room or amazing baseball collection or what's the next. And Van Halen, you've got midgets, you've got the M&Ms, you've got the guys in the jumpsuits, you've got the two kids from you guys are part of the movie. You know what I mean? It just
right.
it's just what I is not dotted in that scene.
Right.
And, you know, I was going to say is what I'm sure you love him too. I love Springsteen. I mean, I grew up in New Jersey. It's like, and he gets so many accolades, obviously, for the Born to Run lyrics. And I always think that Mean Streets, if Springsteen had written those lyrics, they build a statue to him. You know, but right. David Lee Roth doesn't get any lyrical. I mean, from us, but in his, like those lyrics are Martin Scorsese. It's street poetry. He's true street poetry. You know what I mean?
No doubt about it. And you're right. And that's actually, you know, that's a great example of him not getting the credit he's due.
You know,
so that's absolute.
Yeah,
for sure.
So what I've never really, for real, we were talking about this. I think we should end on this. Is like I've never really been that devastated by you know, when people go Prince, David Bowie, what are you? I didn't get it. I understand it's sad they died, but I'm sad, like you say, a father, a mother. But Eddie really, I actually did shed tears because I don't think it's Eddie. I know Eddie had his demons, but they represented joy and they represented our youth in a time that will never come again. Just a thing like freedom, you know, skateboards, bicycles, arcades, the mall. And it was just, what do you think about that? And they represented with their music in it.
Well, I think that's right. I mean, you think about the music and everything that he did with the guitar, and, you know, and somebody, my niece's husband sent to me the solos of him in some of the songs, and that guitar sound is just so crisp. And you think about some of the lead guitars that we both know, and they turn the volume way up and it gets mushy, and the sound just isn't as clear and like I said, precise as what Eddie's was. And you think about that, and obviously there is the musical genius there. And then you kind of pull in there, you know, and I agree with you, and I'll be selfish and personal at this point.
No, go. No, I love it.
But seeing Eddie and Valerie together, just as a you know, a guy and a girl and a husband and a wife, and that contributes to it. And then you hear about the struggles and the demons he was fighting, and the human part of that also kind of contributes to the whole mosaic of him. And then, you know, hearing stories about some of the other gestures and you know, how nice of a guy he was, you know, through gesture. You know, you wouldn't hear about this because he's not running his mouth about the things that he does, but I've heard some really personal stories about him being an unbelievable person as well. Right. And that whole mosaic comes together, and then you think about him passing and me kind of getting caught off guard because I didn't think he was that sick. And I think that all kind of embodies why I was so upset that day. When I get it.
Yeah. I bought a pretty expensive from Mark Weiss, a Poison picture. And I don't know why it meant, it was then with Silly String. It was, you know, obviously a Van Halen ripoff, but my friend looked at it, and Danny Nolan, and he said, you know what that picture says? What could possibly go wrong? And when you were seeing Van Halen, at that, what could possibly go wrong? No one was hurt from the drugs. No one was dying. They were still married. It was like before everything. You know what I mean? What could possibly? And then after that, Dave left the band. But that was just, they were so light at that time. I love the keyboards. Jump. It was just so. It's still, that song is nothing as freeing as Jump. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely. And you think about that, and you know, and I was thinking about this before our conversation here today, Britt. You think about that and that time and the innocence. Innocence certainly didn't seem innocent necessarily at the time, but looking back on it, the innocence of that contrasted to what we have today, like you just said, you know, that nobody got hurt, you know, nobody that weekend, and you know, so there is the, you know, the drug use by the band and you know, others, but nobody got hurt, and you contrast that to, you know, life and death situations that you turn on the TV or you read in social media or whatever, and you just gotta. I mean, I'm sure you're the same way, or maybe you are. I just got to shut that stuff down.
Oh
these
yeah,
days
that's why I do that.
because, my God,
I just want a light. And Van Halen, this interview is a light. You just need a light. And rock and
yeah,
roll and Van Halen were such a bright light, and they continue to be.
absolutely,
If you're in a bad mood, just go listen to you don't even have to listen to the vocals. Put on, Kurt was talking about Dance the Night Away. Well, I mean, what
yeah,
is that? I mean, Eric Clapton just didn't have that. Eddie was stealing from those guys. Jimmy Page, they were dark and stuff. He just had this brightness that just how do you
right,
not get in a good mood? You know what I mean?
yeah, for sure,
You
for
know, I
sure.
mean, you had Pink Floyd and that stuff. You wanted to go there, but Van Halen was just a special moment. So many colors, so much brightness, and they gave us so much
Just
joy.
uplifting,
Yeah,
uplifting. You think about Pink Floyd and the Wall, and it's kind of syrupy. Whereas you think about 1984 and you know, Panama, you know, Jump, you know, Hot for Teacher. It's just uplifting songs that, you know, kind of get you rolling, put a little spring in your step, and you know. And there's, by the way, Pink. It's
Oh,
great,
I
and
know. We
there's a
love
time
Pink
and a
Floyd.
place
We
for it.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah,
you know, so I'm cool with that, and
yeah.
yeah. So it's great. I couldn't agree with you more.
Well, thank you for the story, and it was great to finally talk with you. I mean, this is just such a fun thing, and this brings joy. But I guess that's what it is. Your story in Van Halen. It's nice to have some things that bring a little joy to the world, man. And I really thank you for sharing your time with me, Tom.
No problem. Thank you for reaching out, Britt. It was fantastic, and you know, all the best to you.
Okay, thank you.